Our story starts today with the word so, S-O, a little word that holds great meaning. We're entering a story that's already underway. It shows that something has already happened in the narrative, which is now, at least in part, causing what's about to happen. So what happened? What's the backstory that leads to this unusual encounter? So Jesus had been down in Judea, out in the countryside with his cousin John. But he didn't stay with John. He and his new followers moved out on their own, baptizing not in the River Jordan, but in a place called Enon, a natural spring, a place of abundant water. So not long after this, word about his little sacramental oasis spreads, as word often does about good things like this. So word got back to a group of Pharisees that Jesus was baptizing up a storm out there. And Jesus figured pretty soon they'd be heading out that way, ready to pounce on him with their endless trick questions. He knew that he would have to answer minutiae details of the law with them. And Jesus decided that he had better ways to spend his next couple of days. So he left, the text says. He left Judea and started back to Galilee, passing through Samaria on the way. And part of the backstory is knowing that this is enemy territory for Jews. Ever since the defeat of the northern kingdom of Israel and the subsequent exile of the people of the southern kingdom of Judea, there has been enmity between the Israelites in the north, who became known as Samaritans, and the Judeans in the south, who became known as Jews. We know from history that feuds and wars over religion can last for centuries. And so it was with the Samaritans and the Jews for well over 500 years. This is the setting of our gospel text of the day. It says, so Jesus came to the Samaritan city called Sychar. City is perhaps an overreach. The text says that Jesus was tired. No kidding, he had traveled a mighty long way. And we're not sure how far, but we think it's likely that it was 20 to 30 miles on foot over rugged terrain. Of course he's tired. It doesn't say that he was hot, but it was noon, so we can use our imagination and think about the heavy clothes he probably was wearing. He's tired, so he sits down at the well. And it's kind of ironic because he had just come from a place where there was an abundance of water and abundance of crowds. But now he's alone in a place where they had to dig deep in order to find any water. Some folks think it's Jacob's well, and we can't know for sure, but that's not really the point of the story, is it? Backstories do add depth. They increase our understanding, so when we're given hints or clues by the narrator or whomever, I think they're well worth looking into. So, hot and tired, Jesus sat down at a well outside of a Samaritan town called Sychar. As he sat there, the text says, a woman approached. Now this is a really interesting scene. Here is Jesus, clearly a stranger, and a woman whom he's never met, and yet somehow, some way, Jesus seems to know her well enough to ask her for a drink of water. He certainly could have dipped the bucket down into the well, but he doesn't. He had to have known something was up with her, that she was coming to this well. There was one closer to the village, and she's come alone and at noon, highly suspect. Most women would come in a group, early in the morning or late in the day. What was up with her? Yet, Jesus does not judge her, and nor should we. We can't know her backstory. So she's had many husbands, and as we discovered, the man that she's living with now is not her husband. And there could be a number of reasons for this. Her husbands may have died, or in those days, a man could simply say, I divorce you, and walk away. And if she had no kin to take her in, she was truly on her own, without support. There's a reason why there's special emphasis on caring for widows and orphans in the Bible. I've always liked this woman. She's feisty. She even gives Jesus a little back talk. Maybe that's how she's learned how to survive. And maybe that's why she has no female companions. Sometimes we women can be mean to one another. How is it that you would be asking for a drink from me, she asked. Jews considered Samaritans unclean. Did she think that he was making fun of her? She gives him a little history lesson about the well and its lineage to the time of Jacob, the place where Jacob first saw Rachel drawing water from the same well. But Jesus is not making fun of her. He sees the pain and loneliness in her face. He may have thirst for water, but her thirst lies deep in her soul. We don't know the woman's name, much less her backstory, but Jesus knew. He knew what she was thirsting for. He knew her question about worship location was really a question about freedom, spirit, and truth. He knew her faith in the Messiah was more refined than any of the disciples at this point. He knew that she was hopeful, but she was also hesitant. He knew she was strong, but maybe beginning to waver. He knew her. He knew all of her. The woman sparring with him about worship speaks to a longing for a deeper conversation, for true relationship. It doesn't take her long to realize that Jesus is not like any man or woman that she's ever known. He sees her whole person, and she gets what he's offering. Living water, water of the Spirit that is a source that never runs dry once it's experienced. It's no coincidence that this story takes place about noon. That's a time when the sun is at its peak. Allergies. It's a time when there are little or no places to hide. In last week's story, Nicodemus came to Jesus in the cool dark of the night, full of shadows and questions, resistance and doubt. This week, the bright noonday sun tells the truth about who we are and where we've been in our lives. Not just the beautiful, shining moments, but each little wrinkle in every large failure, our regrets, our wanderings, the losses we've known, the broken places in our hearts and lives. We can't hide things so easily in the noonday sun. There just are too few places to hide. Hide from others, hide from ourselves, hide from reality. This is the broad daylight. You're fully exposed. When you're under the unforgiving brilliance of noon, things suddenly come to light. Things suddenly become more clear. They begin to make sense. Jesus knew she'd been married 5 times before, and he knew that she had just moved in with someone. He knew why she tried to avoid everyone else in town, because he knew the stigma that had been placed on her long ago. He knew how all this pained her. He knew how she pretended that it didn't. Yes, Jesus seemed to know the entire backstory of this woman. I guess that shouldn't be all surprising to us. I mean, Jesus knows all our backstories, perhaps even better than we know our own. And I imagine because Jesus definitely knew the entire backstory of this woman, he knew about the abundant thirst that she had. A thirst that she hadn't even realized herself. And maybe each of us is thirsty in that way as well. I'm not talking about the thirst I've experienced from having a test or procedure that calls for no water for several hours. It's the thirst for something more in life. The thirst of being truly known in our inmost being. The thirst for connection, for relationship. It occurs to me that the most human thing that Jesus says from the cross is, I thirst. Because at that moment he may have felt all alone, abandoned perhaps even by God. It seems to me we're all thirsting in different ways. Maybe each one of us has even been parched by thirst at least one time in our life. We're constantly bombarded with advertising for products to quench our thirst. Even plain old tap water is shunned in favor of all sorts of bottled water, energy drinks, seltzers, teas, and alcoholic beverages. Our thirst is seemingly unquenchable despite all the possibilities. I wonder also if we as a people are thirsting for more. These days we're thirsting for some normalcy as the threat of pandemic has set in. It's sad to me to see how people are panicking at the thought of running out of toilet paper and cleaning supplies in the face of this threat. Or to know that there are others who are trying to profit from other people's misfortune. But what gives me hope is how many folk are seeking ways to mitigate the suffering that will soon be upon parents of school children as they try to figure out how to provide care for their kids when they have to work, or how to get food to kids who depend upon school breakfasts and lunches for their nutritional food. We pray for religious leaders and city churches who have tried to figure out ways to care for their flock when services are canceled, or restaurant workers who may soon be laid off because fewer people are eating out, although you wouldn't know it when I passed Ellers this morning. Or those folks in nursing homes and hospitals who will not be able to be visited by family and friends. And we're also reminded of those without homes. How frightening that must be. Worcester Fellowship is needed now more than ever. The time is coming, Jesus says. It has, in fact, come when what you are called will not matter and where you go to worship will not matter. It's who you are and the way you live that count before God. Your worship must engage your spirit in the pursuit of truth. That's the kind of people God is looking out for. Those who are simply and honestly themselves before God. God is sheer being itself, spirit, and those who worship God must do it out of their very being, their spirits, their true selves, in adoration, as Eugene Peterson writes. So it can be hard to realize that we are thirsty, but the woman at the well also came to the realization, the awareness of her thirst. Jesus speaking to her, the Spirit moving within her, helped her know that she was thirsting for something. The thing that Jesus offered, living water, acceptance, relationship. Something shifted in her when Jesus showed himself to be more than a prophet, one who could see into her past. She dared hope that he could be the Messiah who could lead her into a new future in which she would never be thirsty again. She could not stop herself from running off to shout the good news of Jesus to the folk in the village, folk who had previously shunned her, folks who had to come to see for themselves this man that she had come to believe might be the Messiah. The good news is that they listened to her. Even if they did have to go and see for themselves, her life would never be the same. So this is a testing time for us, for all people of faith. Of course, we need to use an abundance of caution, as we've heard countless times over the past several days. Also, abundance of soap and water. Many places will be closed, but we people of faith are called to keep our hearts open. The time is coming, and surely is, when we are called to risk loving abundantly in the same way that we have been loved. To risk being open to the possibility that the time has come to put aside our differences, to know that we all worship the same God, no matter what name we choose or where we choose to worship. All that matters is to know that as beloved people of God, we are in this together. To risk greatly is to receive greatly the living water that never runs dry. And may it be so for each one of